What is good, my people, my peeps? I know a lot of you guys don't know me just yet, but hello and welcome. My name is Ethereal, and I just want to talk to you guys about how I had to start over at the age of 52 when I was fired from my corporate job. Yes, the corporate career that I thought I had, okay? Bump, 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 okay? No. It wasn't happening, not for them, after being there for 7 years. That's right. I just want to share my testimony here because it might help somebody. You might get some understanding about how the corporate world is in some cases, how that environment really is. I went through a lot trying to even, first of all, get a job, because at the time that I got hired for the position in that company, which I'll probably give that name later. So you're gonna have to come on in and lock it in, okay? And follow, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and just take this journey with me. It might be educational for you, but it might help you survive if it happens to you, because we know that we are in an economy that is just, not so great for a lot of people. And so I found myself in that predicament, being like, what am I going to do in an economy that everything is expensive? And at the time, gas was almost, $5 a gallon, and it was just like, did I just wake up to a double whammy of a nightmare? Because I trust and believe this ride started off bumpy. Okay, so when I got hired at my corporate job, I had just gone through, I was separated, going through a divorce, okay? So I needed to work. It wasn't that I was just fancy free right out of college and things of that nature, and just looking around just to burn up time. No, at that time, I needed to work like ASAP. I needed a position somewhere, okay? And the funny thing is, it wasn't funny, but I had quit working because I used to work with children for 16 years. And I had quit that, and it was because of going through a separation, leading up to a divorce, and working with children. I wasn't in the right state, stressed out, things going on at home. It just was not for me at that time, okay? And putting in 16 years as a government official working with children, that was a long span, and I wanted to also separate myself from that because it was also associated with my past, my life, my ex, and things of that nature. So I had quit that position, right? And quitting that position put me in a financial hold, okay, on my life. I was like, okay, we're cutting out this, and that, and this, and this. I was doing major cuts and trying to just maintain. And so it came to a point where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna need to go ahead and go back into the workforce ASAP. And so I did. And I knew of someone who worked at it was a media company where the corporate job that I wound up getting fired from, okay? And at that time, when I was working and I had quit my job, my government job working for with children, I had started to get my degree in communication. So I wanted a second degree, and I wanted it in communications. And it worked out perfect because I had started my own small company dealing with communications and promotions and things of that nature. So when this person who worked at the radio station. He had seen what I did in the community, my company that I had developed. I was interviewed through our local media and things of that nature. So I guess you would have to say some things are just God plans out your life too, right? He put you in places as well. So I was like, well, I need a job. You know, I expressed my my concerns about what was going on in my life, and this person was like, well, yeah, you do really well, but that's another story, and we might get into that as well, because sometimes everybody that comes into your life is not for you. But like I said, we'll get into all of that later. So let me say this, because sometimes people come into your life not to befriend you, but sometimes to destroy your life, okay? And so let's keep it pushing, because there's just so much to unpack here. So I was like, yeah, I would love to try to get in with this radio station, but it's not just easy just because you have a degree in communications. You have no work experience. Now, isn't that ironic that they tell you, go get a degree, go get training here and there and this and that, and then you get all that, and then they say, well, you don't have the work experience needed. So it was a dilemma here, okay? And so I was like, well, I'll volunteer for a year, because the position that I actually wanted to be in, I didn't know anything. And I was going to be working the boards, operating the actual studio equipment. And this is for, like, if you listen to a morning show, especially a syndicated morning show, somebody like Steve Harvey or the Breakfast Club, you don't see them as the host operating the boards. There's people in the board that operate the boards, okay, and they're making sure the breaks are correct and things of that nature. So that's what I learned how to do, and I volunteered for a whole year doing that. But as I was volunteering for that whole year doing all of that, I was waking up at the crack of dawn, okay? But it was more like really working there, because I was literally making sure that these breaks and the carts were right and all of that. And it was a good learning experience, to say the least. But for somebody who doesn't have drive or dedication, you wouldn't have made it, okay? Because literally I was waking up, rain, sleet, whatever the weather was, I was up and I was driving into the radio station, not getting paid at all. Okay, so I was doing all of that, and I kept putting in my application, because, and the thing is, I was putting in my application for an account executive, because the position that I wanted as a board operator and getting into the programming side of it, it wasn't available as of yet. So sometimes in life you have to take things that are not available to get to where you want to be. And so I was like, well, I'll put in my application for an account executive and see where that goes. But in the meantime, in between time, I still wasn't getting that. So one day I'm in the studio and I'm working the boards. I'm making sure that, you know, the replay of the Breakfast Club, or who was it at the time? Steve Harvey was going over across, and the program director comes into the studio, and he's like, I think it was the vice president at the time. It was a female vice president at the time. He was like, oh, the vice president is here from sales, out of the sales department for the account executive. And I told her that you would like to talk to her. My goodness, let me tell you, I was not prepared. I did not know a meeting I didn't even know she was going to be coming in that day, right? And so at least I'm glad I looked halfway presentable, because half the time I would throw on like some sweats or something, because I was working in the on the board for the radio station. So that day I looked halfway presentable. And when he came in, he was like, she's in the boardroom and she would like to speak to you. Go ahead and go in there and talk with her and let her know you've been putting in your application, so on and so forth. So I was like, okay, any nervousness I had to shake that right off. And so I went in there, and when I went in there and I was talking to her, and we were talking, and when I came out, I did not realize that we had been in there talking at least for about almost an hour and 30 minutes. And so she was like, well, I'm going to go back up to the main office. And she said, I'm going to talk to the president of that region, because there's regional presidents and things of that nature, because this is a large media company. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, and if he's interested, we'll give you another interview. And I was like, oh, okay. And she leaves. And I'm thinking, and it was so funny because the program director is standing there in awe, like with his mouth open, like, and then there were some other account executives in the office when she leaves. And so they overheard the conversation. And so I'm looking at the program director, I'm looking at the other account executives, and they're like, well, what were you talking about? What did y'all talk about? And I was just telling the vice president at the time my experiences, and we just hit it off very well. It was a very, and the thing is, I thought we were just having a conversation. I didn't know I was actually being interviewed, and they didn't know when I was actually being interviewed until we walked out together. And she turned to me and she said she was going to be talking to the president of the region about me, and if he was interested, I would be getting my second interview. And that's when it hit us all that I was in there and I was being interviewed. So this is just a hint to one and all. If you have the opportunity and you're taken off guard and you don't know, always be ready. Be ready, okay? And present yourself, be you. And so that's what I did. And I got a call the next day, and I was told that I was going to be interviewed, and that the president, he was over 40 regions. So in each region, you could have up to 8 or so plus radio station in each region. So you can imagine this was one of the heavy hitters. And I was ecstatic, but it wasn't even the original position that I wanted at the time. But I did not know that they had heard so much about me volunteering, about me knowing how to operate and run production in the studio, as well as knowing that I had my own company, and it related to productions and me, getting financial support for different events that I produced myself. So I wound up getting that interview, and I started working for a major media company, and it was right on time. So I want you to lock it in. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification, that bell, so you'll know when I drop a video, or if I go on live, I'm going to be sharing how I had to start over again at the age of 52, because I was terminated, that's right, fired from a corporate position. All right, I want y'all to keep it locked, and I might be giving you some radio jargon as well, so it is what it is. But this is going to be interesting, informative, and all of the above. All right, and much love.